Good morning. I love hearing all this chatter. I love that it was hard to even get in this room. People were having such a good time talking to each other. Welcome to our mother, special friend, daughter, coffee and assembly. It is really wonderful to see this room filled with so many special and strong women in our community. And we thank you for coming today so that we could honor and celebrate you. Before we begin, a heartfelt thank you to Susan Stewart, mother of Annie, and Jenny Hannon, mother of Megan, for chairing this event and for bringing all of us together so beautifully. So thank you. One of my favorite parts of this program, there's so many favorite parts, but one is the printed program. And I hope you have taken a moment to enjoy the beautiful poetry and artwork featured there. To the women in this room, you are, in the words of our student poets, goddesses, moonbeams, beautiful souls. You are the ocean's waves, the smile brighter than the gym lights, the constant. You are home. The through line here is enormous gratitude. Soak this gratitude in this morning, because let's just admit it, it's not easy being a moonbeam. It is hard work being a goddess. In fact, it may be the hardest work that there is, and yet it is also the most rewarding and wonderful. Our program is dedicated to you this morning, and we hope you enjoy it. We now have the opportunity to hear reflections from two student speakers, Gabby Wellholter and Cameron Lesh, as well as enjoy musical performances by our chamber choir and orchestra. Two notes for our program. Fiona Meldowney, class of 2021, will be joining the chamber choir today, stepping in for Ellie Leshen. And we are also reversing the order of our musical performances. So you will enjoy We Can Dream first. And now I welcome Gabby to the stage. Thank you.
Today, my goal is to search for a definition. My definition and your definition don't have to be the same, but I want to help you discover what has influenced you your entire life. Essentially, I am trying to figure out what exactly makes a mother figure. Power, strength, subtlety, peace. I think one should figure that out for themselves, though I have found through my experiences that what makes a mother figure for me is the persistence in finding the good. First, I'm going to talk about my mom, obviously. My mom is like the peanut butter you get stuck to the roof of your mouth. A little nutty, but once she's got a grip, she's never letting go. Sometimes you need that kick of nuttiness, but sometimes you don't, especially when she starts dancing at a store while you're in line to check out. Though, I thought about trying to embarrass her as much as possible, to try and get her back for the 15 years I've had to endure. But there's one flaw in my plan. She does not get embarrassed. Ever. I mean, she is so confident in herself, she doesn't even flinch when I try to do the chicken dance in public. It's impressive. My sister is screaming in the middle of church. Not a care is given. She knows people will take one look at her and not mess with her. What makes a mother figure, besides the fact that she's my biological mom, is the fact that she inspires others around her to do their best. Her confidence in herself radiates and inspires that spark of competition in you. A couple of my friends have said, I want to be like your mom one day. She's just awesome. She is awesome, and when I grow up, I want to hold myself with the strength and self-confidence she does. She has shown me persistence in the way that after she and my dad got divorced, she still continued to be her positive self, always smiling and looking forward to those sunny days. She showed me that endings do not have to be negative. Endings are just the start of something new, and she continues to show me that every day. After my mom, I'd say the other most influential mother figure is Ashley, my dad's fiance. Ashley is like a good crime novel, kind of dark with a few twists and turns you don't see coming, but has a happy ending anyways. She always has a witty remark or an old saying that she's held on to since she was younger. One of my favorites is the instinctual figure it out that comes out of her mouth when one of us is faced with an easy solution that we do not need help with. But I think the most important Ashley saying is have fun being a kid. that she says when dropping my siblings and I off anywhere. That phrase has shaped me in many different ways. Letting go of my worries for 3 hours while watching movies with my friends has never been more enjoyable because I now understand what she is trying to say. Hang on to the little moments, because they are never going to happen again. Even though Ashley isn't a kid anymore, she radiates fun and good energy, even if she's the queen of wearing black. No doubt she is, but every queen has to have their leopard print coat. I hope to continue to hold on to the little moments and enjoy life as much as she does. To give her credit, dating a guy with 3 kids is pretty daunting, and yet she cared for my dad so much, and after meeting my siblings and me, cared for us so much, that she decided that the pros outweighed the cons and adopted all of us into her family unit. She wanted us to make us feel comfortable with her, so she began to ask us the deep and personal questions within hours of meeting us. Ashley became and is a part of my family because of her dedication and persistence to finding the good in my dad, me, and my siblings. Another mother figure in my life that has influenced me is my great-great Aunt Florence. Aunt Flo was undoubtedly the coolest old person I've ever met. She liked chocolate pudding, red shoes that matched her nails and lips, dirty jokes, and Cardinals baseball. I regret not spending as much time with her before she passed away, but the time I did spend with her racing through the nursing home on my scooter and she in her wheelchair did impact me in many more ways than one would think. Though I did lose to her in those hallway races, and when I was little, I mainly focused on that. Now, I do think it's important to see that she never stopped being herself. She once called my grandmother and told her, "Judy, I've got some bad news." My grandmother, expecting the worst, said, "Oh God, what's wrong?" And dear old Aunt Flo said, "I'm going to live to 100, cackled, and then hung up the phone. Even though she was 4 years shy of her prediction, she never stopped embracing who she really was, a loud, assertive, independent woman. Aunt Flo was an optimist and remained one until the day she passed away. She never had a frown on her face and dedicated herself to making others laugh and smile along with her. She found happiness in every encounter she had, and every time we talk about her, it's always while we are smiling and laughing. So, a mother figure can be a woman who dances in supermarket lines, a woman who wears all black with a touch of leopard print, or a woman who races in wheelchairs in her nursing home. A mother figure can be like those in my life, ones who dedicate themselves to finding the good in everything they see, or the complete opposite. All I ask you to do today is to reflect on what makes a mother to you. Good morning, I'm Gabby Waholter, and thank you for listening.
Everyone expresses love in different ways. Dr. Gary Chapman, author of New York Times bestseller, The 5 Love Languages, discovered through his work as a marriage counselor that everyone expresses love in one of 5 main ways. They are as followed: words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. My love language is quality time. I show love by going on a hike with somebody or taking them out to dinner. My dad's love language is acts of service. He shows love by doing things that others don't necessarily want to do, like unclogging the toilet or ironing the school shirt at 6 in the morning. My sister's is gift giving. She shows love by sending somebody a care package or a letter. My mom's love language is physical touch. She's not just a hugger and a kisser. She likes to stroke your hair and hold your hand and rub your back. Now, this would be great if anyone in my family liked this kind of affection. As you can imagine, my hatred for being touched and my mom's constant touching led to many years of friction between us. But as I've grown up and matured, I've come to appreciate this excessive affection because I know it's just her way of telling me how much she loves me. I've started growing out of the I'm too cool for my mom phase and into the my mom's my best friend phase. And with this growth, I've realized that I don't give my mom the credit that she deserves. Although it can be hard to admit, my mom knows a lot more than I do. She's right more often than she's wrong, and she's taught me so many lessons in my life. I just want to share a couple with you. Number 1, strong women don't get pushed around. My mom is one of the most powerful women I have ever met. She's smart, she's driven, and when she wants to be, she's scary. She doesn't put up with disrespect from anyone. Let me give you an example. Earlier this year, my mom started to get fed up with how she was being treated at work. Like many women, she was being taken advantage of and wasn't getting paid as much as she should have. So one day, she stood up, marched straight out of her office, and did not come back until she got a raise. Growing up having that as my role model made me who I am today. She taught me to stand up for myself, use my voice, and not let anyone take advantage of me. Number 2, don't waste your time on things that aren't worth your time. I think this mentality comes from my mom's assertive nature. She's one of those people who always asks for directions because she doesn't want to waste her time wandering around. When I was much younger, I struggled with perfectionism. I treated every assignment like a test and stressed myself out over the little things. Girls at this school tend to put a lot of pressure on their grades. The last thing we need is our parents pressuring us as well, and my mom knows this. A couple of weeks ago, my mom asked me how I did on my calculus test, and as any teenager, I responded with, fine. And she said, so like a C? There's not many parents that would consider a C fine, and I'm extremely lucky my mom does. My mom doesn't expect me to do perfect in all of my classes. She's there to comfort me when I get a bad grade, not punish me. My mom showed me that there are more important things in life than your grades. Our time is so valuable, and we need to be careful how we spend it. It's not worth skipping lunch to study for a test. It's not worth driving around aimlessly for hours because you're too afraid to ask for directions. And it's not worth helping somebody who wouldn't do the same for you. It's important to value your time and spend it on the things that truly matter. Number 3, sometimes you just need your mom. This is something my mom has always said. I never really understood it until I started to reflect on my high school career. We're all growing up, becoming young adults, and making plans for our future. A lot of us feel this pressure to be independent and not rely on others as much. I especially felt this as an underclassman. I used to be embarrassed by my mom and thought it was cool to be independent. Now I'm growing up and I'm realizing that this was such a silly mentality to have because my relationship with my mom is valuable and worth my time and energy. Looking back, I wish I would have relied on my mom more because there are some times when you just need your mom. I'm a senior in high school, a legal adult, and I need my mom to hold my hand when I get a flu shot. I need my mom to hug me and say good job after the dance concert, and I need my mom when I'm sick or stressed or sad. Moms always know the answer, and they always have the cure, so take advantage of them while you can. While writing this speech, I was thinking of all the things that I wanted to share. and it just made me realize how much my mom does for me. So I wanted to say thank you, Mom, for sacrificing so much for me, putting up with me through my years of teenage angst, and raising me to become a strong and confident woman. I will savor every weekend trip to TJ Maxx, every episode of Love It or List It, and every late night hair dyeing adventure. I love you, Mom. Thank you.
Keep thinking about his angel eyes. I keep thinking, Last night I was taking a walk along the river, and I saw him together with a young girl, and the look that he gave her made her shiver, 'cause he always used to look at me that way. And I thought, maybe I should walk right up to her and say, it's a game he likes to play. Look into his angel eyes, one look and you're hypnotized. He'll take your heart and you must pay the price. Look into his angel eyes, you'll think you're in paradise, and one day you'll find out he wears a disguise. Don't look too deep into those angel eyes. Oh no, 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 no. Keep thinking about his angel eyes. I keep thinking, sometimes when I'm lonely, I sit and think about him, and it hurts to remember all the good times when I thought I could never live without him. And I wonder, does it have to be the same every time when I see him? Will it bring back all the pain? How can I forget that name? Look into his angel eyes, one look and you're hypnotized. He'll take your heart and you must pay the price. Look into his angel eyes, you'll think you're in paradise, and one day you'll find out he wears a disguise. Don't look too deep into those angel eyes. Crazy about his angel eyes. Angel eyes. He took my heart, now I must pay the price. Look into his angel eyes, you'll think you're in paradise, and one day you'll find out he wears a disguise. Don't look too deep into those angel eyes. Oh no, 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 no.
It is such an honor to introduce our guest speaker. Dr. Nancy Beveridge, class of 1980, knows well what it is to be a honey bear. She is an alumna herself and the parent of 2 Harpeth graduates, Betsy, class of 2003, and Glory, class of 2008. She is also our former board chair and remains an honorary trustee. Her love and devotion to this school and its community are invaluable gifts. Dr. Beveridge is also an outstanding pediatrician who has, in this role, supported countless families while raising her 4 children, her 2 daughters along with her sons, Stockton and Henry. Strong, witty, a joy to be around, and refreshingly down to earth, Nancy Beveridge cares deeply about supporting adolescents and their parents. Those of us who have leaned on Dr. Beveridge, many in this room, myself included, know that she is also a brilliant teacher in this role too. There is always a lesson to be learned in her presence. I am delighted that we have an opportunity to listen and to learn from her today. Dr. Beveridge, thank you for speaking to us.
Wow, incredibly kind words. Between that and the moonbeam comment, I've got a lot to do here today. So a friend of mine sent me, what's it called, a meme. I'm going to show you my technological inadequacy. But it was a meme, and she sent it to me not too long ago. And when I read it, I laughed out loud. And then as I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I realized it was worth repeating. So I'm going to set it up for you. So it came to me on my phone, and it had 2 columns. And at the top, it said, how to be a parent. And then in the left column, it said, in 2019, and in the right column, in 1982. So, in 2019, how to be a parent. I'm just going to read this. Make sure your children's academic, emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual, physical, nutritional, and social needs are met while being careful not to overstimulate, understimulate, improperly medicate, helicopter, snowplow, or neglect them in a screen-free, processed foods-free, GMO-free, negative energy-free, plastic-free, body-positive, socially conscious, egalitarian, but also authoritative, nurturing, but fostering of independence, gentle, but not overly permissive, pesticide-free, 2-story multilingual home, preferably in a cul-de-sac with a backyard and 1.5 siblings spaced at least 2 years apart for proper development. Oh, and don't forget the coconut oil. So how to be a parent in 1982. Feed them occasionally. So it got me to thinking about how many things have changed since I started practicing 28 years ago, but also fundamentally how little has changed. So take vaccines, for instance. Most of you have had them. When I started practicing, we gave very few vaccines relative to the ones we give today. And in fact, recently I counted. In the first 18 months of a baby's life, we now give 25 shots designed to protect them from life-threatening diseases. And as many of you know, this couldn't make me happier, as I am old enough to have practiced during a time when children were so vulnerable to the diseases that we're protecting them from now. And back then, it felt like a monthly occurrence that I had somebody in the office or in the hospital with diseases like meningitis or pneumonia, and often with dire consequences. And it was a really sweet day for me not that long ago to give the niece of a little girl that I had cared for in my residency 30 years ago, the vaccine that would protect her from the bacteria that had devastated my patient 30 years ago. So I had the juxtaposition of that was sweet. By eliminating these diseases, though, vaccines have changed the way we practice, and frankly have left us time to focus on all that column of things that are out there now, things like how to talk your toddler into eating right, that kind of thing. Another change that I've seen is the way we schedule our patients. So back in the day, we had this incredible woman who wielded a spiral notebook and a pencil. I mean, that was for erasing, right? A pencil. And she was like an air traffic controller. She would listen, people would call, and she would take their concern, and she would listen to what limitations they had in their schedules and when their baby was supposed to eat and the soccer practice and all that stuff, but she'd get them in at a time that it was okay for me, but more importantly, okay for that mom to get her baby in. Well, now we've got a computer. And so I've got this great staff that, you know, is limited by this very cold and sterile system that, you know, no, I'm sorry, you can't come in then because the computer says that you can't come in. And it leaves everybody feeling just pushed and squeezed. You all, me too. Another enormous change I've seen has been the introduction of the internet into our culture and the instant answers that are available. So back in the day, there was a time if you had a medical question, you'd have to go to the library and check out a medical textbook and look it up, right? I think my brother had the Merck manual on a CD that was in his car, and he'd listen to stuff like that. But back then, as the physician, I needed to have all those answers kind of in my head. And when somebody asked me something, I could talk about it intelligently based on what I'd memorized in medical school. But now, a lot of you guys come in, and you've already looked it all up, and you know more than I know about it. So as a result, practicing has become more about trying to take that information and put it into context and interpret it. But the change that it's created is that it feels like practicing is more like a partnership, not only with the mom or the dad, but the patient, and in many cases you guys, because you know so much. And I really like that. That's been a great change for me. Social media, we have to talk about that. So Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, all of those things create this constant background narrative of advice and comparison that is available 24/7 and is hard to avoid, and that's at any age. Me too. While there's some interesting aspects to that and some interesting information that comes from that, those apps promise connection and intimacy with others that frankly they cannot deliver on. Have you noticed that too? And have you noticed what a total time drain they are? My husband, who has been holding out on me, about all he could do with his smartphone was answer it. I mean, he couldn't do anything else. Well, now he's looking at his fantasy football team every night. I'm going, I didn't know you could do all that, but he's not reading anymore. You cannot believe how social media wreaks havoc on the confidence of new parents who in the past had to rely on their good common sense or their instinct to know what to do with this little demanding, nonverbal, hungry person called a newborn. The information out there has become so available and so varied that many new parents find themselves overwhelmed or losing sight of just the beauty of having a newborn. Or like the meme suggests, parents are bombarded by a series of do's and don'ts that promise a guarantee of safety and health and eventual happiness for their children in such quantity and with so little data to back them up, it's overwhelming, and parents find themselves exhausted and anxious and trapped, honestly, by those rules. So I've started asking new parents just to turn the noise off, turn your phone off. When your baby cries, they want one of three things. They want to be fed, they want to be changed, or they want to be held. Don't worry about a schedule. Don't worry if you're doing it right. Don't worry about some vague environmental hazard that's out there threatening you. I'll tell them, we'll fix all that later. Just enjoy it, because as all you moms know, the time is sweet and it passes quickly. My conversations with you guys, my patients, have also taught me so much about the power of all this access to information. You guys increasingly are questioning the world in which you live and the social norms in which you've been raised, emboldened by access not only to the people in your school and your community, but also around the world. Other young people like yourselves who share your concerns about climate change or the inequities of opportunity that exist in our world, or perhaps the constraints of the binary definitions of gender or sexual orientation that have governed the way we think. It is heartwarming to see your interest in so many subjects beyond yourselves. as I believe ultimately, and I've told many of you this, you're going to be our problem solvers. So what hasn't changed? Well, the fact that I still have the best job on the planet. No kidding. Be a pediatrician. It's awesome. And why? Because what's not changed is that we fundamentally all are still members of a species that wants to connect with one another. We want to be heard and understood and seen and touched. It's instinct, and it's been hammered into us over thousands of years of evolution. Moms and daughters, teachers and students, friends, and even pediatricians and patients occasionally. I see it in myself, and I wonder, at least as a woman, if our very survival perhaps depended on those connections so many years ago, when culturally men were the hunters and warriors and women the gatherers and the caretakers, when men went off and hunted the food, fought the wars, established the boundaries, and ensured the safety of the families they were protecting. All very, very important stuff, but typically very alone. Theirs was a world of necessary competition for survival. Women, on the other hand, were left in a group typically to care for the children and each other, which instead created a culture of dependence on relationships, friendships, collaboration, and teamwork. It was hardwired into women then, and I think in most cases remains so. Now, no doubt men and boys have evolved to desire and need these connections, just as women have evolved out of the more traditional women-only roles. Fast forward thousands of years, and clearly those boundaries and gender roles have become less strictly defined. Thank goodness. I'd hate to think there are barriers on anyone's hopes or desires simply based on things like that. But the point is, no matter gender, age, station in life, human beings desire connection with one another. And despite the overwhelming presence of technology in our lives and the conveniencies that technology can provide, what I experience is that we still want that connection, and we want it in person. In fact, I think we crave it. And from that, I see very other human and reassuring behaviors, ones that cannot be provided via a screen. I see grace. And I am not using that word in the religious sense only, as it is a word that applies to any belief system, even to those who are non-believers. Grace being the offering of forgiveness and acceptance, despite fundamental differences, dearly held beliefs, or maybe just a desire for independence. I've seen parents extend that grace to their children, but maybe as often children towards their parents. After all, not a one of us says and does the right thing every single time. Just ask my children. I see kindness, and often even without any expectation of kindness in return. And anyone who's interacted with my nurse Faith at my office knows this. I see a desire for a better world, not just for ourselves, but for everybody. Only human beings can take that desire and turn it into action that matters. And we do it because our instinct shows us the way, even when we don't want to necessarily. We are genetically programmed to take care of one another. And honestly, that idea is no better illustrated than in the relationship that happens between parents and children, but specifically today, mothers and daughters. So I am both. I am a mother, as Armistead said, and I am a daughter, and grateful to be both. So back in the day, my mom came over after I had all my babies. There was no such thing as paternity leave, and fathers, often reluctantly, but had to go back to work, sometimes the day you came home from the hospital. So there you were at home, alone with this new little person who is completely dependent on you, despite the fact that your body had just been through a major medical event that following 40 weeks of complete physical upheaval and the fatigue that created. So my mom just came over, and she hung out with me. I didn't ask her to, nor did she really offer or make a big deal over it. She just came over, and she kept me company. She let me question and wonder if I was doing everything right. She fixed me a glass of ice water. She did a load of laundry. She was just present for hours and hours and days. At the time, I was grateful for the help, but I didn't really think about how those hours just hanging with me really affected her until later, in the context of my self-proclaimed busy life, I realized how nonsensical that could have been for her, just basically doing nothing for hours. That was until my daughter got breast cancer last year and began her weeks of treatment. She didn't ask me to, and I don't even remember offering. I just went to Virginia every 3 weeks to be with her for her chemotherapy. It was then I understood well how my mom had just hung out with me all those hours. For me, there was absolutely nowhere else that seemed more important to me to be than in that little treatment room in a facility in Fairfax, Virginia, she dozing in a recliner hooked up to an IV, and me working my crossword puzzle or doing my needlepoint. No phone, no work, no lists, no goals. Did I have to be there? No way. Betsy is way capable of handling her life and the curves it throws without my help. Did I want to be there? You bet. And that I saw loud and clear as the privilege of motherhood. So I'll end with this story. As many of you know, I love to say to you when you come in for your checkup, oh my gosh, you've grown up. Wow, you've changed so much. Good thing I haven't changed. So not too long ago, I got my comeuppance. I was finishing up a checkup, and you all know this scene well, with a 5-year-old darling little girl, long blonde hair, and her vision is poor, so she has these little Coke bottle glasses which magnify her eyes. Her eyes are enormous. And throughout the checkup, she'd been really happy until the dreaded end when I said, well, so it's time for Nurse Faith to come and give you your shots for school, at which point those big eyes through those Coke bottle glasses just filled up with tears and brimmed over, and she looked at me and she said, I don't like shots. And I said, I know, I don't like that you have to have them, but you've got to get them today. So I went in to give her a hug, and we were hugging and embracing, and as I kind of pulled away, now I'm like this far from those little Coke bottle glasses, and she looked at me and she said, you look really, really old. And I said, I know. It's just what you got. But we can still be friends. So today, it is with much gratitude that I stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you as a mother and as a daughter. You know, just hoping as a mother to pay it forward, hoping to turn the noise off. Where's my phone? Turn it off. And experience what is so fundamentally human about each of us, and that is grace and kindness and connection. It's there. I'm certain of it. I just got to turn this off so I can see it. Thank you for having me. I love being in this place so much, and thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Beveridge. Thank you all for such a wonderful morning. Every time we do this, I'm so grateful for this day. When we plan events at Harpeth Hall, sometimes there's a moment, should we have sent a reminder? Are they going to remember? Are they going to show up? There is never a doubt on this morning because mothers always show up. And we are so grateful you're here. We don't have to worry about you. Thank you so much for being here with us. My sincere thanks once again to Susan Stewart and Jenny Hannon. I just want to thank them one more time for organizing and making this event go so smoothly. I also want to thank Liz Stockdale and Armstead Lemon for their help with the logistics, and my able assistant, Nick Bullard, and Sage Dining for their help, of course. All of our volunteers, all of the girls who helped as well. I was so touched last night as I read right before bed the beautifully written words of Abigail Nichols, Ella Griffin, and Taylor Nisbet. Thank you for sharing your poems with us in our program. Thank you to Mrs. Turner for your direction, to Georgia Elder, Kate Yappin, Bella McKay and Fiona Muldowney for performing Angel Eyes for us. Such a great start to the morning. Thank you, Mrs. McDermott and our upper school orchestra for your performance of We Can Dream. Thank you for the laughter, the touching words. I teared, and my eyes filled up with tears, with sweetness, and also with laughter many times. Gabby Wellholter and Cameron Lush, thank you for your beautiful speeches. Last but not least, thank you, Dr. Beveridge. She does offer wisdom, support, and advice to her patients and also to some of the adults in her life, and I am so grateful she is part of our community. In closing, let me say we are so thankful to have all of you in our community. Our high school years are ones where we all want to gain independence, and yet we need that person. We need that constant in our lives, that person who knows us inside and out, and sometimes we don't even want to admit it. My mother is 94 next week. She doesn't always recognize me as her daughter, but she still recognizes me as someone special. She knows when I walk in, I'm someone special, and that is very important and always will be. And my voice is shaking because I'm losing it. I just want you all to know that. My husband said this morning, I think it's a sign, dear, you need to talk less and listen more. So I just wanted to throw that in there. But that constant is the place where we are safe. And girls, the good news is that never, ever goes away. Thank you all, moms and daughters, for being here this morning.